Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Gimel and Mirz Hashem today. We will be learning Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. We're starting a brand new Siman, Siman Reish Samach. Of course, we're continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos, Siman Reish Samach, Dinei Hachnasas Shabbos, the halachos of bringing in Shabbos, Ubay Beis Seifim, and here we have two Seifim. Our learning should be a schos for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Hanusunim Batzaru Bashivya, Ha'imdim Bein Bayom Ubein Bayabasha, Hamakayim Yerachem Aleihem, V'yaytziim Yitzar L'Rvacha Me'afelu L'Oiru Mishibur L'Gula, Hashta Bagalo V'Zman Kariv and Emar Amen. As I am recording this year, the news filtered in from Eretz Yisrael, how, at least according to the way it's being reported, Hezbollah up in the north had plans to launch thousands and thousands of rockets and missiles and drones all together at the same time, and the IDF, the IAF, whoever it was, got wind of the preparations and launched a preemptive strike which thwarted the plans. And according to what I've been told, the only damage that was done was to a chicken coop. Okay, we never know what the truth is. We only know what we're being told. But whatever it is, it sounds like there was a tremendous Yeshua, and we have to be very cognizant to attribute the credit for that Yeshua to where it belongs, to the Ribbono Shel Olam, who is making us, who protects us. Einei Hashem Elokecha b'ay mereishis hashana v'ad achris hashana. The Ribbono Shel Olam's attention is always fixed on Eretz Yisrael and on Klal Yisrael. Hinei laganu v'lo yishan shemei Yisrael. And if we are careful to give that credit and to acknowledge the Yad Hashem, then the Ribbono Shel Olam will continue to use the Yad Hashem for our benefit. Chas v'chalila, people don't see the Yad Hashem in it, and they attribute it to Mikra, or they attribute it to Koichi v'Yitzim Yadi, then we Chas v'chalila are in trouble. So, here, Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, says the Mechaber, Reish Samach Aleph Sif Aleph, Mitzvah Lirchotz, there is a mitzvah to bathe and to wash. Hagaz, says the Ramah, Kol Gufay, one's entire body, L'chvod Shabbos. V'im ef shalai, if it's not possible for him to bathe his entire body, Yerchatz Panav Yadav V'Raglav B'chamin Be'erev Shabbos, at least he should go ahead and wash his face, his hands, and his feet using hot water on Erev Shabbos. So here we have the Mechaber. If we take out the Ramah over here, the Mechaber was saying that it's a mitzvah for one to wash Panav Yodav V'Raglav B'chamin. There's a mitzvah to wash your hands, your face, your hands, and your feet using hot water on Erev Shabbos. The Ramah interjected, the Ramah put in that the mitzvah is to wash the entire body, Kol Gufay. If you can't, for whatever reason, wash Kol Gufay, then at least you should make sure to wash Panav Yodav V'Raglav, and this should be done with hot water. Continues the Mechaber, mitzvah lachayv harosh, it's a mitzvah to wash one's head, ulegaleach hatzi parnayim, and to cut one's nails be'erev Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos, l'chvod Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Aleph, mitzvah. The Mechaber said that this is a mitzvah. He doesn't say it's a chiyuv, he doesn't say it's an obligation, he says it's a mitzvah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, mipnei kvod Shabbos. This is an inyan of kavod Shabbos. L'chayra, what the Mishnah Berurah is telling us is that this is nichlal in v'karasa l'Shabbos oinig. This is part of oinig Shabbos, and kavod Shabbos is to go ahead and take a shower, take a bath. Will become akim, nevertheless, says the Chavetz Chaim, and he brings this down, and he's basing this on the Gemara and Chaf Hei Amud Beis. Ein zeh choiva gemura. It's not a choiva gemura. It's not a true obligation, a true chiv. V'hamakaima, this is something that if you fulfill it, if you do it, mekabel oleh haschar, you will receive schar for doing so. V'she'ena mekaima, somebody who's not mekayim this inyan, Einoi nenash aleha, he will not receive an einish for not doing it. Uma'oid yesh lizar, says the Chavetz Chaim, one must take great care. Shelo yavai al yidei mitzvah sarachitza l'chshash chilul Shabbos. One should take great care that by striving to be mekayim this mitzvah and taking a hot shower, a hot bath on Erev Shabbos, he doesn't actually come to chilul Shabbos. Says the Chavetz Chaim, harbe nichshalin bazeh, many at least in his day and age were nichshal in this. B'mei HaChoyrif, during the winter days when Erev Shabbos, when the day is short, Kishahayomim Kitzarim, Sheyoshvim Kemat Ad Shechoshecha. Let's remember that in those days they used to go to the Beis HaMerchatz. They went to the bathhouse. Now there are milus and chesroinus. When you think about the wonderful benefits of having built-in indoor plumbing, you have your own private shower and bath in your home. It's a gavaldik mila, right? You go take a hot shower whenever you want. On the other hand, when you had a Beis HaMerchatz, if you were going to the Beis HaMerchatz, it's like an outing. You're going to the spa. You're going for a treatment. You're going to the Beis HaMerchatz. Now, the Chavetz Chaim says, what would happen? People would go to the Beis HaMerchatz, and they would rug sich up. They would, relax and take it easy in the Beis HaMerchatz, and they would stay in the Beis HaMerchatz, kemat ad shechashecha. They would stay there until it's almost nightfall, until it's almost Shabbos. Let's remember also that they didn't have a smartwatch on their wrist and a cell phone with a clock in their pocket, and there weren't 3 clocks on the wall, and every appliance in the place didn't have a clock on it. Time was not something that everybody had a device on them to always be able to tell the time. And therefore, people were not as cognizant of the passage of time. So says the Chavetz Chaim, people sat around in the Beis HaMerchatz, tzad shechashecha. Even if they took their bath, they took their shower early enough, so they did it on Erev Shabbos beheter, gam came mistamin isur liyadoi, they still came chas v'chalil to be over isurim, shepa'amamu soyrek es roishai basoif. Sometimes all the way at the end of the bathing and of the showering, one of the last things is to go comb your hair and comb your beard. Shehi malacha daraisa b'Shabbos. That could very well come to being over on an isur daraisa, because when somebody combs his head, with the hair on his head or the hair on his beard, it's really a psik reisha that some hair is going to be pulled out, and the pulling out here could very well, according to some Rishonim, be mamish the isur daraisa of goizes. Like shearing. Some want to say it's a drabanan because you have no intent to use the hair. But according to many, it's mamish a daraisa. And that's what the Chavetz Chaim says here. He says it's a malacha daraisa b'Shabbos. Gam motzoi, it's also very common. Sha'achar gemar kol ha'pu'ulos, after, at the end of all the showering and bathing and combing the hair and everything else, soichet ha'aluntis mehamayim shenivla boy. Then they would take the towel that they used and they would wring out the towel. V'hu b'chlal mechabes. When you have a soaking wet towel and you wring it out, that's part of the av malacha of koives, of laundering, washing. So that could also be an issa daraisa. U'kamoisha yavur l'kamon b'simin shin beis. And therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, it would be proper, worthy for anyone who has a touch of Yiras Shamayim in his heart, to prevent people from doing these things. And then the schus of the rabbim, he's mezake es rabbim, and he's mafresh the tzibur from averos. The schus of the tzibur will be hanged on him. It will be hinged upon him, the schus of the tzibur. And if you have the ability to be pirish the tzibur from Yisurim, and you don't, then you would be toifes ba'avoinam. You'll be grabbed together with their avera. Like the Gemara says in Shabbos Dundal Amud Beis, anybody who has the ability to protest and to object to practices that are being done in his home that are not proper, people that are being over Yisurim, and he doesn't object, nitfas ba'avoin anshe beisoi. Then even if he himself is not over on the Yisurim, he will get dragged down together with their averis, because he should have objected and he did not. It doesn't only go on one's own home. Even if somebody has the ability to object to the averis and the Yisurim that are being done by the people of his city, and he doesn't do so, nitvas ba'avain anshe iroi, he will be pulled down together with the averis of the people in his city. Of course, the sugya of heichech techiaches hamisecha, the sugya of how to properly give techacha, is an intense sugya. It's not a simple thing. Somebody could learn this Chavetz Chaim and then decide that he's going out being a kanoi and he's going to object to everything that he thinks is wrong. Lo zu haderech. If somebody wants to give techacha, if somebody feels that he's in a position where he could be mafresh people from Yisurim, he has to have guidance from a Rav, from somebody who understands these things and knows the halacha, how to give techacha, when to give techacha, when it's proper, when it is improper. Okay, Mishnah Berurah is cotton based. The Mechaber said it's a mitzvah lirchoitz. Says the Mishnah Berurah, and he brings this down from the HaTorah Sekenim. V'gam al hanoshim shaykh mitzvahs rechitza. This mitzvah of rechitza does not only apply to men; it applies to women as well. Now, one might wonder, why would I think that it's only going to apply to men? My quick answer is going to be because the mitzvah of Einik Shabbos and Kavod Shabbos would seem to me, if it's a mitzvah say, it's definitely shahazman grama. It definitely has a time limiting factor to it. It must be done on Erev Shabbos before Shabbos. Perhaps one might have thought that it doesn't apply to women. Kamash balon that it does, which we're going to learn about a little bit further on as well. Ubimei chayrif, during the winter days, shayamim kitzarim, when the days are short, ve'ein lehem pnai, and the women don't have time to go properly bathe. Let's remember that back in the day, all of the preparations for Shabbos, right? You had cooking that had to be done, baking that had to be done. Nobody was going to the bakery. Nobody was going to the takeout store. Everything was done in home, and everything was much more time consuming. They didn't have the time saving appliances that we have. Let's also remember the Biur Halacha that we learned about all the way in the beginning of Chelik Gimel, who decried the practice of buying challah as opposed to baking challah. So the women were very, very busy. So if a woman didn't have time to wash properly, yekaimu mitzvah sarachitza b'pneiim v'yadayim. They should at least be mekayim the mitzvah by washing their faces and their hands. Interesting that the Mishnah Berurah over here does not mention ragleim. And as we have seen, this is also adequate for men. If they don't have pashat the time to go wash their entire body, they could be yoitza by washing their hands and their faces. V'ayin bel Yerabba, and look further into this in the words of the El Yerabba. Now, the Ramah interjected over here, and he said that the mitzvah is l'irchayitz kol gufay, to wash one's entire body. Says the Mishnah Berurah, hainu b'chamin, again, this is in hot water. I would just interject over here, this was mamish apella to me, but it gives you the chaymer hadavar of this mitzvah. I was told by somebody who witnessed this exchange, and it's a tumuadik exchange. If you knew Rav Moshe, if you knew the Yeshiva Zatzal, it's pretty wild. I'm told that somebody asked the Yeshiva Zatzal during the 9 days. Somebody asked him about the halacha of taking a hot shower on Erev Shabbos Chazon. And the Yeshiva Zatzal said, somebody who, we've learned this halacha, somebody who's in the habit of always taking a hot shower on Erev Shabbos is allowed to take a hot shower on Erev Shabbos Chazon as well. So this person asked the Yeshiva Zatzal, what if you're not in the habit of always taking a hot shower on Erev Shabbos? And the Yeshiva Zatzal's response, and again, I was told this by an aide, by a witness who was there, and he's an aide Neman, who told me that the Yeshiva Zatzal looked up in surprise, and the Yeshiva Zatzal said, Vos fara behema? What kind of a behema does not take a hot shower on Erev Shabbos? Now, the audience did not know Rav Moshe, but to hear Rav Moshe speak in such a way, Vos fara behema, doesn't take a hot shower on Erev Shabbos, a pile ploim. The Yeshiva Zatzal's dibur was as refined as you can imagine. For the Yeshiva Zatzal to say on people, Vos fara behema, doesn't take a hot shower on Erev Shabbos, it just shows you the tremendous chaymer, the stringency with which he treated the idea of Kavod and Einik Shabbos, the need to go take a hot shower on Erev Shabbos. And it's a beferish halacha. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah is cotton dalid viraglov. And in this Mishnah Berurah, perhaps we will see the answer to why the Mishnah Berurah above, when he spoke about women who don't have time, he didn't mention raglov. He said that they could be yoitza by washing their faces and their hands. He doesn't mention their feet. The Mechaber mentioned panav yadav viraglov. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cotton dalid. V'ko'es ein noyagin lizar bazeh. Nowadays, says the Chavetz Chaim, we're not very nizhar to wash the feet. Says the Mishnah Berurah, ve'efsher, it could be, Tadafka b'medinoi sehem. It was only in their regions, in the time of the Ramah, the Mechaber, shahayu regilu leilech yochef, where it was very common for people to walk barefoot. V'darkon lichotz b'mayim ipnei ha'avak v'ha'afar. So, if you walk barefoot, you can imagine how dirty your feet get. Especially back in the day, the streets were not very clean. They were a lot less clean even than they are now. You had behemoths walking in the street. You had muddy streets. You had dirt roads, dirt pathways. So people's feet were very, very malochlach. They were very unclean. Therefore, there was a tremendous need, l'kavet Shabbos, to go wash your feet. But now, but in our regions where people don't walk around outside barefoot, people don't really walk around inside barefoot either. So therefore, the need to wash the feet is not so pressing. We learned about this earlier on in the Chelik Aleph and Siman Daled when we spoke about the need to wash before davening. Ois Cotton Hay. The Mechaber said that this should be done Erev Shabbos. On Erev Shabbos, that's the proper time that one should go take a shower. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Erev Yom Tov. This is not only Negeah, first of all, to Erev Shabbos. This is also Negeah to Erev Yom Tov. Aval B'yoyim Chamishi. But on Thursday, Lo Yehevi Yakrei de Shabbos. It's not Yokar, it's not a glory, it's not Kavod Shabbos to go take a shower on Thursday. The proper time to take that shower, Kavod Shabbos, is on Friday, on Erev Shabbos, not on Thursday. If one doesn't have the ability to take a shower on Erev Shabbos, then the closer you could bring it to Shabbos, so it's more nicker that you're doing this L'chvod Shabbos, the better it is. But we don't say automatically that if you take a shower on Thursday, that's Kavod Shabbos. There is a certain way of thinking, and there's a basis for it in halacha. We've learned earlier that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are considered connected. They're precursors to the coming Shabbos, whereas Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are connected to the previous Shabbos. So there are people who think, if I'm taking a shower on Thursday, that's already Kavod Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah, no. To take a shower on Thursday, it's not nicker that you're taking a shower Kavod Shabbos. You should take the shower on Erev Shabbos, not on Thursday, unless you cannot. Okay, then the Mechaber said that besides the mitzvah of bathing and washing, there's also, and this would be part of bathing, there's a specific mitzvah loch of harosh, to wash the head, wash your hair. And then the Mechaber said, L'galei chatzi parnayim, to cut nails, be'erev Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah cut vav. U'b'yom chamishi makpidin shaloi litlon. There is a hakpada not to cut your fingernails on Thursday. Why? Memnei shatzi parnayim maschilin lachzor v'litzmayach b'yom shlishi l'giluchan. Because when you cut your nails, they begin to regrow on day 3. So if you cut your nails on Thursday, so you have Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, the nails are going to be grown back on Shabbos. So then the fact that you cut the nails on Thursday is not a Kavod Shabbos. How is that a Kavod Shabbos? Very nice you cut your nails on Thursday, but on Shabbos they're already growing back. So you didn't accomplish anything with Kavod Shabbos. So don't cut your nails on Thursday. Cut your nails on Friday. Believe it or not, there are also those who bring down that is what they call a srach meleches Shabbos. It's kind of like a zilzal of Shabbos. If by cutting your nails on Thursday, you're causing that the nails should grow on Shabbos, so that's like a srach meleches Shabbos. There is such a concept brought down. Obviously, it's not performance of malacha in any way, shape, or form, but there is such akpada brought down. But the pashtus is, the reason for this is, like the Chavetz Chaim says, the reason is because it's not Kavod Shabbos, because you cut your nails on Thursday, but they're growing back on Shabbos. So how is that Kavod Shabbos? There are those that write, there's brought down in Indian not to cut your fingernails and your toenails on the same day. One reason that I saw brought down for this is because it's a shtickle too much gashmius. When somebody is sitting and he's bathing and he's washing his hair and he's combing his hair and then he cuts his nails, so he's got the manicure going, and then doing his toenails, he's got the pedicure going. It's kind of like we're having a whole spa treatment over here. It's a shtickle zu viel gashmius. So that's one reason that I saw brought down. Other than that, there are also Kabbalistic reasons that are way beyond my pay grade. It's also brought down that one should not cut the nails except on Erev Shabbos or Erev Yom Tov. V'hanachain, and what is proper is sheyakayitz min haraglayim b'yom chamishi. What is proper is cut your toenails on Thursday, u'min hayadayim b'yom shishi, and the fingernails on Friday. Why? Because the fingernails that are begolui, they're revealed, they're exposed, everybody can see them. So we have to be much more makbid on the Kavod Shabbos aspect. So therefore, the proper time to cut them is after Thursday, so that they shouldn't be growing back on Shabbos. The toenails are covered. They're covered by socks, by shoes. People aren't seeing them. It sounds like it's an Indian of Kavod Shabbos and Oynik Shabbos, but it's for yourself. And the fact that they're growing back already is not such a big deal. So therefore, cut them on Thursday so that you shouldn't end up cutting them on the same day as the fingernails on Erev Shabbos. Isa b'Gemara. It's brought down in the Gemara in Masechtas Moed Katan. Ha-Seiref Tziparnayim. Somebody who cuts his fingernails and burns the nails, chassid. He is considered a chassid who does lifnim mishuras hadin. Koivran, somebody who buries the fingernails, tzaddik. He's called a tzaddik. Zarkon, somebody who throws his fingernails away, Russia, he's called a Russia. Okay, what's that play over here? Says the Chavetz Chaim, what's the problem of throwing away your fingernails? And by throwing away, we mean throwing them on the ground. Shama tavar alein isha mu'uberes. There's a danger that an expectant woman might step over the fingernails, vitapil, and miscarry. Therefore, now the Gemara makes sense. Somebody who burns his fingernails, well, he is making sure that this will not happen because he's putting the fingernails out of existence. He's burning them. Now that's lifnim mishuras hadin. You don't really have to do that, so he's a chassid. Somebody who buries them, he's taking the proper steps that in all probability it will not happen, that an expected woman will step over them because they're buried. So he's not a chassid, he's not doing lifnim mishuras hadin, but he's a tzaddik. He's doing what he has to do to make sure that there shouldn't be a problem. Zarkon, somebody who throws them on the ground, he's a Russia who doesn't care about other people. He doesn't care that a pregnant woman might come to a mishap because of his fingernails. Now, what the Chavetz Chaim does not bring down over here is, what exactly is this problem? Why should it be that if an expectant woman steps over fingernails, there's a danger that she might miscarry? So one thing that I've seen brought down is that it's brought down that Adam and Chava, Kaidem Achet, Adam and Chava, when they were first Nivra, before they ate from the Eitz Hadas, they were covered in Tziparnayim. They were covered in the same material that the nails are made out of. Their entire body was covered with this material as a protective layer. And they lost that zchus after they ate from the Eitz Hadas, and it was taken away from everywhere except on the nails. Therefore, when the nails have a sort of a zuama, they have a sort of an attachment to the remnants of an avera, because the nails, that's where we got struck by the oynish of the avera. We got stuck by losing the covering of the nails. So there's a little bit of that zuama attached to the nails. Now, we know that the chet of the Eitz Hadas was something that was begun by Chava, well, really by the Nachash, but Chava ate from it first and then gave to Adam. So the remnants of that avera have more of an affinity, more of an attachment to a woman than to a man. Therefore, the combination of the fingernails that are laying on the ground and a woman that steps over them, it recalls the avera, and it could bring her chas v'chalila to miscarry. Says the Mishnah Berurah weiter. Based on this, v'lachein, bebeis hamedrash d'lo shchichi nashi, in a Beis Medrash, where it's not common to have women in the Beis Medrash, or if there's a Beis HaMerchatz, which is a man's Beis HaMerchatz, it's not frequented by women, mutter lizraik. In such places, it would be mutter to throw the nail down on the floor. There wouldn't be any issue of the risk of a woman stepping over them. Kam Yisasham Gemara, it's also brought down in the Gemara Moed Katan, De'ein b'koicha lahazik, rak beduchta denefili. This risk of the discarded nails bringing a problem is only exactly where they landed. Therefore, aval ikonish lu basar hachi v'shadu la'avroi laslanba. But if you gather them up and you throw them on the ground outside, there's no problem, because that's not where they initially fell. The problem is you throw them down on the ground in the spot where they initially fell. That's where you have a problem. The cost of Aprisha Siman Reish Mem Aleph Mikan comes out from here. If somebody cuts his nails in the house, and it's a place where women do walk, and a little bit of nail fell down onto the floor, what you should do is sweep that area, so that if there's a piece of nail on the floor, you moved it out of the place where it originally fell, and then it doesn't make a problem. But the Eliyarabba writes, to Efsher it's possible that this idea that you could obviate this problem by moving the piece of fingernail out of its place, maybe it's not sufficient to just move it out of its place. Maybe you have to actually move it out of the room, and therefore lechatchila, this is not something that you should rely on. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, and he says, since we're talking about cutting nails, it's proper for one to wash his hands after he cuts his nails, like we learned earlier in Siman Dalet, and for this, washing, just a quick washing once of the hands is sufficient. People wash nail wasser, strictly speaking, that is not necessary. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Zayin. Nope, we have to go into the Ramah here. Top line, Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, says the Ramah, Hagah. Somebody's got a chup. Somebody's hair is growing and his hair is a little bit long. Mitzvah legalchan. It would be a mitzvah to take a haircut on Erev Shabbos. And when somebody cuts his nails, lo yital oisan kisidron. You should not cut them in a row. Don't start with your thumb and then cut the next finger, the next finger, the next finger, the next finger. No, there's a proper way to cut them. How should you cut them? V'yaschil b'smoil b'kemitza. On the left hand, you start with the fourth finger. That's with the thumb being number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. You start with the fourth finger. And b'yamin, with the right hand, you start with the second finger. B'yamin be'etzba. And there's a siman for how you do this. For siman lazeh, dibehaga b'smoil. On the left hand, you follow the rule of dibehaga. What's dibehaga? Number 4 gets cut first. Number 2 gets cut next. Number 5 gets cut next. Number 3 gets cut next. And number 1 gets cut next. So it's de. Again, the thumb is number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4, de, and then 2, be, then 5, ha, then 3, ge, and then Number 1 is the thumb. That's on the left. And on the right, it's bid'aga. Easy way to remember bid'aga is that bid'aga actually spells bidaiga, with worry. Worry about how you cut your nails. Do it the proper way. Don't just quickly do it. So bid'aga would be 2, 4, 1, 3, 5. So it's dibahaga and bid'ahaga. Okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Zayin legalchan. If somebody's hair is long, it would be a mitzvah to take a haircut, betara b'misparayim, with a razor or with scissors. People are under a misconception that it is always usher to cut one's hair with a razor. It depends where you're cutting your hair and how you're cutting your hair. But definitely a razor can be used to cut hair. So betara b'misparayim. The reason for this is, of course, it would be good if you don't know what you're doing to stay away from using a razor, lest you come to be over on the Issa Daraisa of cutting the wrong parts of your hair with a razor. The reason why there's such a mitzvah, because you don't want to come into Shabbos when you're disgusting with long hair. You want to beautify yourself for Shabbos. There are places there are places where they have the minhag not to cut their nails, even on Rosh Chodesh, even when Rosh Chodesh falls out on Erev Shabbos. Kikein Tziva Rebbe Yehuda HaChassid. Always cut and ches. The Mechaber told us that when you cut your nails, you shouldn't cut them kisidron. Lo yitel b'tashbeitz kosev shemaram lo diktek bazer. The tashbeitz brings down that the maram was not makbid on this seder of the order in which you should cut your nails. V'chein kosev al ha'ari. They also write on the Ari that the Ari also was not makbid. Mikol makom yesh lizar lechatchila. The Magen Avraham says lechatchila one should be makbid on these things. Now, I'm not taking away from what the Mishnah Berurah writes over here. The Mishnah Berurah brings down from the Magen Avram that l'chatchila one should be nizar, and I'm not saying otherwise. One thing that I will say is that I find that sometimes people treat these kind of things as more of a daraisa than a daraisa. And it's very important in the halacha to keep proper perspective. What's a chiyuv, what's not a chiyuv, what's an isser, what's not an isser. This is not a chiyuv, it's not an isser. L'chatchila, you're cutting your nails. What do you care? What order you cut them in? If you know that it's brought down as Indian to cut it in a certain way, it doesn't cost you anything. Go ahead and cut it that way. But let's keep a proper perspective on it. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discuss limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. The Rosh Hashanah should send Yeshua's for us, Parnaset, Shadukrim, to all those in need. We should be zeicher to see the BS Gal Tzedek, Memher, V'Yameinu. Amen. Be well.